You talked a lot about tariffs. You look at the American economy, 40 million jobs rely on trade. It accounts for 27% of GDP.
Okay.
If you cut that off, that's also going to have an effect on many, many business people here.
Yeah.
Tariffs also have another side. Isn't that something that you have to acknowledge?
No.
You could be plunging America into the biggest trade war since Smoot-Hawley.
But there are no tariffs.
You're going to stop. There are tariffs already at the
there are
moment.
no tariffs. All you have to do is build your plant in the United States, and you don't have any tariffs.
People, a lot of places like this, there are a lot of jobs that rely on foreigners coming here. You're going to basically stop trade with China. You're talking about 60% trade on that, 60% tariffs on that. You're talking, as you said, 100, 200% on things you don't really like. You're also talking about 10, 20% tariffs on the rest of the world. That is going to have a serious effect on the overall economy. And yes, you're going to find some people who will gain from individual tariffs. The overall effect could be massive.
I agree. I agree. It's going to have a massive effect, positive effect. It's going to be a positive, not a negative.
Well,
let me just tell you. No, let me tell you. I know how committed you are to this, and it must be hard for you to, spend 25 years talking about tariffs as being negative, and then have somebody explain to you that you're totally wrong.
Donald Trump earlier this week in an interview with the editor of Bloomberg News, John Micklethwait, at an economic conference in Chicago. Joining us now with charts on the truth about tariffs, former Treasury official and Morning Joe economic analyst Steve Rattner. Steve, good morning. Great to see you. We'll let you dig into your first chart in a moment, but I know you watched that entire interview, that entire exchange. What stood out to you?
What stood out to me is that Trump was talking basically economic nonsense, and not just on tariffs, but on all kinds of other things that he talked about there, on taxes, on his administration, and so forth. And the crowd was obviously a very pro-Trump crowd, and they really liked it, frankly.
Yes, giving smattering of applause to the idea of tariffs. So let's talk about what those are actually and how they actually would affect people heading out to the polls in a couple of weeks. Your first chart shows that tariffs are like a national sales tax. How does that work?
Yeah, Willie, look, the most important thing for anybody to take away from this is exactly that. Tariffs are like a national sales tax. They add to the cost of goods, whether it's 10%, 20%, 100%, 200%. But don't believe me. Let's look at some history here. Trump actually imposed a bunch of tariffs, as you'll recall, including on laundry machines. Back in January of 2018, he put a tariff on a laundry machine, average cost $750. It added $200 to the cost of the laundry machine. But then President Biden allowed that tariff to expire. And so what happened? The price of laundry machines fell by $75. Which meant that the increase in laundry machines, which had way outstripped inflation, actually ended up being lower than the average inflation rate in the rest of the country. And then the other thing that happens often with tariffs is that countries, as you suggested, retaliate. And so a lot of countries put tariffs on our exports, our agricultural exports, soybeans, things like that, in retaliation for what Trump did on iron and steel. And look what happened. We lost $27 billion of agricultural exports to all these different countries because they put on their own set of tariffs. Our farmers lost out. Trump ended up raising agricultural subsidies to make up for it. Right. So we lost multiple times in the course of all this.
Yeah, as you point out, they had to actually lift farm aid to close the gap and make up the difference, more taxpayer money there. So let's move to your second chart that shows what the tariffs do actually to the broader economy in terms of growth.
Yeah, a couple things. First of all, we don't have tariffs as a major source of our revenue for the reasons I was just explaining, which that they really don't work. Trump says he's going to put on so much tariffs that he's going to actually be able to cut taxes and things like that. But you're starting from such a small amount, the federal budget is so big, not going to make any difference. Let's look at another historical example. The Great Depression. I think a lot of us studied in school that the Great Depression was either caused or exacerbated by tariffs. Actually, it wasn't caused by it, it was exacerbated by it, is the answer. Smoot-Hawley tariffs were passed in January 1930. The economy was already in a recession. Look how bad it was. I'm not going to say the tariffs are all of this, but they certainly didn't help, and they actually hurt. Then the tariffs are removed by FDR in 1934. These were put on by Hoover. FDR removes them, and the economy is growing again. Again, not all because of tariffs, but I think every economist in the mainstream would tell you those tariffs and every other tariff hurt economic growth.
Okay, and your final chart, Steve, gets at the fact that tariffs are regressive. In other words, they hurt people at the bottom of the economic scale more than they do at the top.
Exactly, Willie. And let's again take some history here rather than believing what I say. Let's look at solar panels. we were having a nice growth in the number of solar panel jobs. This is an increase in solar panel jobs under Obama. Trump put his tariffs in place, and actually growth in solar panel jobs slowed down, even with the tariffs. And then when Biden helped pass the Inflation Reduction Act that we're familiar with, the growth in solar panels jumped. The Peterson Institute, which is a well-respected student of these matters, did an analysis of Trump's proposed tariffs and found, as you said, they hurt workers at the bottom the most. They cost the average worker between $2,600 and $3,900 a year in increased prices for their goods. Remember, it's a national sales tax. But if you're at the bottom, it could cost you 6.3% of your after-tax income versus 2.9% for those at the top. So they hurt everybody in terms of your after-tax income, but they hurt those at the bottom the most.
So, Steve, given all the data you've just shown us, we know the Biden administration, many administrations have imposed some tariffs over the years. What is the case for tariffs?
There are a couple cases. One is when other countries don't play fair with us. Trump thinks no other country plays fair with us. That's not really true. But if you have a country that's egregiously subsidizing its own companies, you can use tariffs there. Tariffs are also used, and Alexander Hamilton actually advocated tariffs when you have a young industry that you're trying to grow, to protect it and allow it to grow. So there are some cases for tariffs, but they're very limited. And as I said, I think almost every mainstream economist will tell you tariffs end up hurting. We all learned in school, trade is good. We make something more efficiently than another country, we sell it to them. They make something more efficiently than we do, we buy it from them. That's good trade. Tariffs get in the way of all that and have those costs associated with them.
So, Steve, if Trump gets his way and raises tariffs on nearly everything, and you own a small general store in central Pennsylvania, it's rather rural, you're making profit, but it's hard to make the profit. You've got like 6 employees. What happens to that general store owner?
Yeah, you end up losing sales, you end up losing jobs, you end up with a much weaker business as a result of it, because you're paying so much more for the stuff you're having to buy, and your customers can't afford to buy as much of it at those higher prices, and so your business goes down, and the workers end up being the ones who get hurt.
Fascinating and important look at tariffs, which Donald Trump talks about an awful lot these days. Morning Joe economic analyst Steve Rattner. Great stuff as always, Steve. Thanks so much.